in the last week, you would have seen the same coverage, hopefully the same coverage, albeit nowhere near as enough of a young girl in Iran being, there was an honor killing, and she's a young, like 14-year-old girl killed by her father. That is 2020, right? And if that had have been, I guess, any other young girl, any other social group, ethnicity, we would have seen a very different reaction. So the structure of the mainstream media, we're seeing this this parallel currently going on in the United States with the, and I'm calling it rioting deliberately because protesting is different from looting. When you're looting high-end stores like Louis Vuitton and Alexander McQueen, I'm not quite sure what that has to do with the justice at hand. But we know that there is a conversation around race in the States. And in a country like Australia, we definitely have entrenched racism, very, very different from what we see in America. But the narrative pushed and the polarization of the media in America is so much more significant than what we're seeing here. How much of a role do you think that really aggressive polarization of media in the States, in terms of an agenda setter, is to blame for this?
Unfortunately, they have a huge part of the blame. I mean, not just the media as far as journalists, but the media like television and movies and advertisements and magazines and all sorts of media that people are consuming. There seems to be this fetishization of fundamentalist aspects of Islam. And I definitely put that straight on the media's lap for doing that, because they would not do the same thing if it was fundamentalist aspects from any other religion. They just simply wouldn't. They would recognize it as something that is anti-woman and something that is misogynist and something that they should not be supporting. So I really do think...
No, go.
I was just going to say that I think that race is a huge part of this. Identity politics is a huge part of this. Grouping people as, Black people good, white people bad, Muslim people good, Jewish people bad. That is incredibly simplistic. It's childish. It feels like a Walt Disney movie where the good guy's going to wear a white hat and the bad guy's going to wear a black hat. That's not the way it is in real life. In real life, we are all human beings and we are all on a spectrum. And it's really difficult, even to talk about Muslims because there are, over 1 billion of them. And some Muslims are my friends that I love, that I would do anything for. And some Muslims I want absolutely nothing to do with, and I hope to never see them again for the rest of my life, and I want them far away from everybody in society. So, and the same could be said for any race or any religion,
exactly. Yeah. And you could even take religion or faith out of that and say, some people are my friends. Some people I never want to have don't want to breathe the same air as they breathe. It's really that basic. I want to ask you, in your work, in your professional day-to-day life, these conversations, is there a sense of resignation around this liberal media infatuation with the extremes of Islam? Is there a sense of resignation around it? Is there a sense of we must do something about it? Is there any sense of even acknowledging, I suppose, that there is a significant issue that needs to be addressed?
From who? Like who is it?
From anecdotally. So, for example, in my world, when I'm writing columns and I'm dealing with clients, and you're just sort of interacting with day-to-day people, because we know that sections of the media operate in a bubble. We all operate to an extent in a bubble, but my world and your world is a little bit more inclusive. I feel like I'm not just interacting with one group of people day in, day out, and neither are you. But the interesting conversations that I have is that there is this sense of, well, there isn't anything wrong with this.
Yeah.
So, and it's that whole, which women do we decide to advocate for, and which women are we happy to just discard and leave to the circumstances in which they were born?
And yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. And that's why I was asking who, because if you're thinking of, feminist, like ex-Muslim women or women from a Muslim background, or even people like Asra Nomani or Raheel Reza, who are still Muslims that are pushing for progress within their religion, then there is a lot of frustration. They are just infuriated. They are angry. They are trying their hardest to get these messages out, but it's absolutely falling on deaf ears. And I completely agree with you that from my perspective, the liberal media seem to not even notice. They seem to not even care, and they just continue to shovel more and more on us, and they're completely oblivious to the fact that we're screaming and saying, can you please stop? I mean, they're not even noticing that case of the young 14-year-old girl that's beheaded by her father. I didn't see that in mainstream media. You know, the women in Iran that are being imprisoned because they refused to wear the hijab that they're being forced to wear. You're not hearing anything about that in mainstream media. So those are the kinds of things that, yeah, it's really, really hurtful too, I think, is what it comes down to. Because, you know, I remember this Sam Harris TED Talk where he was talking about young girls from a Mormon community that were being married off, like in polygamous relationships, and the FBI went in there and they yanked those girls out of that cult. And we don't have that same kind of energy when we're talking about young girls from Islam, even though the young girls there could be dealing with FGM, they could be dealing with forced marriage, you know, it doesn't matter. Like in my book, I talk about how it went through everything, the police system, the child services system, the court system. And eventually I got to see a judge, and he knew everything that had happened to me, all of the physical abuse, all of the mental abuse, all of the sexual assault. And in the end, it was like, this is your lot in life. This is what's acceptable in your family.